Hey everyone, welcome to your restorative practice. Today we're going to use something that works like a strap. And as you know, I like you to get creative with what you have at home. So if it's like a towel or a blanket or a scarf or a leash or a tie, whatever it is you have, grab that. The other prop you'll need will be something that you can use kind of like a block or a bolster. So make sure it's like about the width of a block, which would be a thick couch cushion. And so you can use that, or you can stack folded blankets together to get that height. And before we get started, I want to show you an option up close. If you do have I guess I would say a traditional yoga strap, I wanted to show you this. I've mentioned it before if you practice with me in person. There's a little way to make your strap into a hammock. And so I wanted to show you this up close. Even if you don't have a strap today, you could refer back to this video later, and maybe they're not very expensive. I mean, you can find these at like something like a Marshall's or a TJ Maxx or on Amazon, wherever, Prana, for about $7 to $10. Anyways, okay, so strap if you have it. The tail end goes through both D-rings and then over the top of one and through the under, just like you would put on a belt. And then you pull it a little bit tight, and then here's my check. I make sure that's tight. I just pull it tight, make sure it's not going to move around on me. And then you have this big loop that you can use like a hammock. We're going to start off just simply laying down on our backs. If you're using a blanket in your practice, you could take that blanket underneath the back of the head, give the back of the head a little patting. And just start to come down to your back. Set your strap off to the side. Set any cushions, blocks, whatever you're using off to the side, and just take a moment here. You can either stretch your legs out long, or you can mirror me and bending my knees, planting my feet wide and letting the knees knock in towards one another. I'll take a few deep belly breaths here, maybe closing the eyes, relaxing the shoulders down the back. Settling into your body, settle into your breath. Just take a few moments to scan your body and notice how you feel today. Let's take 3 more breaths here, just allowing ourselves to settle and become still. Breathing in and out through the nose. And we'll start off with Supta Padangusthasana, which is just lying on your back, hands to feet pose. And instead of our hands today, we'll use our strap. So if you're using that traditional quote unquote yoga strap, you're going to loop up the ball mound of the right foot. Here's the option for the hammock. It would come underneath the back of the head, right above the ears, like you were putting on sunglasses. And then you might just relax your arms down alongside your body and let your foot hang heavy in that strap. If you're using the head in the strap like a hammock, the key here is the placement of the strap right above the ears, right at that bulbous part of the skull, not at the back of the neck. Okay, so your neck is completely relaxed. You're letting your head be heavy into the strap. And if that's not going to work for you today, or if you don't have a strap, or your strap is rather short for that, you're just holding either ends of the strap in your hands. You can double wrap that around your knuckles, let your hands slide down. Let your elbows soften towards the mat, shoulders get heavy. Okay, so ball mound of the right foot in the strap, left leg, that knee can stay bent, or you can try and extend that left leg long. Your right leg, the one that's in the strap, I don't care if it's straight or not. Okay, so We did this if you're with me in your vinyasa practice this week with that left foot at the wall. And it's just an opportunity to feel some sensation along the back of the right leg. And so sometimes that means you need to bend the knee to make this sustainable. We'll spend a couple minutes here, just a couple. It won't be super, super long hold. We've already been in this shape for about a minute, so we have one more minute. If you're gripping the strap with your hands, can you soften that grip? Can you relax your jaw, the neck, the throat? Continue to breathe in and out through the nose. Let's take 2 more breaths here. If you're using that strap like a hammock for this next movement, we're going to stay with this right leg in this strap, but I'd recommend taking both ends of the strap into your right hand. So both ends of the strap into your right hand, let the right toes turn out to the right side, let that leg fall open. Your leg doesn't have to get on the floor. Mine's not even getting close, so don't worry about that so much. I want you to pay more attention to sensation in the leg and less about what it looks like. And your left knee, that can stay bent too. You can continue to extend the leg, but sometimes I find, this is true in my body, you could check it out for yourself. If I keep that left knee bent and the foot on the floor and kind of like it's a half butterfly, half Baddha Konasana, I can move the sensation to the inner border of my right thigh and less sensation on the knee. So looking for the sensation in the belly of the muscle of that right leg. We'll take about 5 more breaths here. And then we'll come back through center, sole of the right foot back towards the ceiling. Both ends of the strap into your left hand. Okay, so left hand is holding the strap. And then that right thumb, just wiggle it into your right hip crease. It's like you're moving the flesh away from the bone, pulling that flesh away from the hip, and turning the right toes towards your left shoulder. And you're doing this thing with the right thumb to tell your hip to stay on the ground. And you're just doing a little slight degree of internal rotation on that right leg. So this is not a twist. Both shoulders and hips are grounded. We'll take about 5 more breaths here. Stay as you are. I'm just going to do a little tech check. Continue to breathe in and out through your nose. Let's come back through center, sole of that right foot, back up towards the ceiling. Walk both your hands up the strap towards the foot. Deep breath in, deep breath out. We'll release the strap and then slowly with control lower the right leg and then just pause. Maybe let both of your legs stretch out or bend the knees and plant the feet. You choose. We'll take 3 breaths here. in between sides. And as you're pausing here in stillness, see if you can draw your awareness down to your right leg, your right hip, right thigh, right knee, right calf, right shin, ankle, sole of the foot. And just notice how that whole right leg feels. We'll start to set up our second side, and I recommend always starting off with bending the knees and planting the feet, then looping up the ball mound of the left foot. Again, if you're going to use the strap like a hammock, if that's something that you have and it's accessible to you, the strap goes right above the ears as if you had glasses on. And then the head, that bulbous part of the skull, rests heavy into the strap. The arms can stretch out wide if you're using that strap like a hammock. And if you're not, then you're just gently gripping either end of the strap in each hand. You can double wrap that strap around the knuckles, slide the elbows and the shoulder blades down into the mat and get really heavy in the shoulders and the arms. You can choose to extend the right leg long, and you might notice that that intensifies the shape. It does for me. And that sensation typically, when I extend my right leg long, moves further up the back of my leg, so I start to feel it in my hamstring. Whatever you're doing with your legs, can you stay relaxed in your upper body? Your jaw, the muscles of the face. The neck, the throat. A little bit less than a minute here. Do your best to keep breathing, keep relaxing. If you need to bend that knee, that left knee at any point in time, feel free to do that. Especially if your leg really starts to shake and there's a lot of effort to keep it in space and hold it there, I'd recommend bending that knee. Let's take 3 breaths here. Now both ends of the strap, we're going to shift into your left hand. Left toes turn out to the left. Let the leg fall open. Elbow bends. You can use it like a little kickstand. And then again, here too, worrying less about how far you go with that left leg. It doesn't need to touch the floor. Pay attention to the sensation in the leg though. Okay, so where do you feel stretch or where do you feel sensation? You might try again, like I said on the first side, to get that sensation more towards the belly of the inner thigh and less stretch on the knee joint itself. What I do is I keep my right knee bent and I let my right knee fall out to the side. So it's kind of like a half butterfly on my right side and Supta Padangusthasana on my left side. We'll take 5 breaths here. right, so start to come back through center. Take your time with that. When you get into center, both ends of the strap, right hand. Right hand is holding both ends of the strap. Left thumb, little hitchhiker thumb, is going to wiggle into that left hip crease, and it's like you're moving the flesh away from the bone. Get a little bit more length through the torso and keep that left hip grounded as you turn the left toes towards the right shoulder. And the foot might internally rotate a little bit. It really doesn't take much typically, and I should say that with a grain of salt, depending on how tight you are. For me, my left side's so much more sensational because the tissues are really tight on my left side. So I feel this a lot. It doesn't take much movement to feel it in the outer border of my left leg and also the back of the left thigh. So I just say that so that you pay attention to the degree of movement. Sometimes it doesn't take much to get a big, huge stretch. And sometimes it takes more. So tune into your sensitivity, your needs, your sensations. And we'll take about 5 more breaths here. Last breath. In and out through the nose. And then we'll slowly rotate back to center. Slow that foot towards the ceiling. Walk the hands up the strap towards the foot, hand over hand towards the foot. One more time, flex those toes towards the face. Heel bone towards the ceiling. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. And we'll slowly release the strap, and then with control, left leg lowers. And then just get long. Maybe get long through the legs. Stretch out if that feels good on your spine. If it doesn't feel good on your spine, keeping the knees bent, feet planted works just as well. Let's take 3 breaths until we move to our next shape. As you're breathing here, drawing your awareness to that left hip, left thigh, left knee, calf and shin, the ankle bone, the foot, and the toes. All right, so now we're going to find our prop, the one that we're going to use that's kind of a couch cushion height, or maybe it's a block, or maybe it's a stack of blankets. We'll set up first in constructed bridge, or supported bridge rather, bending the knees, planting the feet. You're going to lift your hips up and then slide that prop underneath the pelvis. If you still have that blanket underneath the back of the head, if you were using that, getting rid of any props underneath the base of the skull is what I would recommend, so that the neck can remain neutral and long, the throat can stay open and soft. So feel free to adjust that prop. Is it the right height? Do you need to add more height? Do you need to take height away underneath the base of the pelvis? So pelvis is now lifted slightly above the heart. Technically, you could call this an inversion. It might feel a little bit like a back bend to you, or it might not feel like much of anything at all. So I'm going to give us 2 little incremental options to add on here. first option would be to float the feet up towards the ceiling. And sometimes when you do that, you need to adjust the prop underneath the base of the pelvis. It might not be in the right position. And that's going to be relative to you. What I'm looking for is, where does the support underneath the pelvis allow me to lift the legs up towards the ceiling with relative ease? So I just kind of play with it. Sometimes I get it a little bit closer to my low back than I normally would. And then I start to feel like this sense of weightlessness through the legs. I kind of move them around in space a little bit. I might roll out my ankles. Might play with opening and closing the legs, or bending the knees and then straightening them out. And then just know that if your posterior chain, your back body is pretty tight, like hamstrings and glutes and low back, if that's pretty tight for you, this shape is probably going to be very challenging to just simply float the legs up in the air. Simple, not easy, always not the same thing. Simple doesn't always equal easy, okay? Just remember that. So you can stay right here like this, legs up the wall-ish, quote unquote, in the middle of the space, or you can come back to that starting position, knees bent, feet planted, and you can always come back here. And then final option would be to stretch the legs out long so that the pelvis is just kind of waterfalling over this prop. And this shape tends to be pretty intense for those of us with tight hip flexors. And it can also be a lot on the low back, because you are now a bit of a back bend, more so than you were before. One more thing I would say here too, as you settle into a shape that you're going to hold for the next couple of minutes, would be, especially if you're draping your legs out and just relaxing the heel bones down to the mat, getting long through the legs, I'd really pay attention to how much height you have underneath the pelvis, because that's really going to change the sensation. Typically. Not always, but typically it will. As you find that place to rest and breathe, settling back into a nice even inhale, even exhale. Relax the jaw. You might close the eyes if you haven't done so. See if you can let this be an internal experience. Or kind of just going into the body and noticing how it feels, where you feel things, and kind of describing what it feels like for you. What adjectives might you use to describe your current experience? Maybe you're bored. Maybe you're anxious. Maybe you're sleepy. Maybe you're achy. Maybe you're numb. Maybe you just feel really good right now. So just acknowledging that full range of experience, and know that all of that is normal. Yes, you are normal. If you're getting bored or anxious or tired or sleepy or achy or even numb, all of that is normal. Take about 4 more breaths here in our current shape. If you have your legs stretched out, I want you to bend your knees one at a time slowly, plant your feet. And if you still had your feet up in the air, same thing, bend your knees, plant your feet, and just pause. Feet on the mat, knees bent. And now we'll move that prop out of the way, tuck the tailbone under and release slowly from the middle of the spine, lower back, pelvis, and then tailbone. And then with your feet wide on your mat, knees still bent, just start to sway your knees side to side. Knees sway side to side. Feel free to pause on one side. Take a few breaths. And then change to the opposite side and pause. Take a few breaths. Maybe one more time in each direction. And then we'll begin to set up for Shavasana. And so I'd encourage you to take Shavasana. I always encourage you to take Shavasana, but in a way that it's supportive of stillness. And if your low back's feeling a little achy, you might take something underneath the backs of the knees, or you can continue with that constructive rest pose, which is knees bent, feet wide, knees knocked in towards one another. Take a moment to shrug your shoulders down your back, slightly tilt your chin in towards your chest. Take one whole minute in Shavasana. Yes, you do have time for that. And yes, it is important to this practice. Try to stay with me for 1 minute. Give yourself that. Nothing to do, just let yourself be. Begin to deepen your breath. Please stay in Shavasana longer if you do have the time. If you need to move on with your day, little movement to fingertips and toes, stretching the arms up and overhead, rolling off to a side when you're ready, and then making your way to an upright seat. And just briefly take a few breaths here and close out our practice. Deep breath in, grow tall. Breath out, settle into your seat. Continue breathing in and out through the nose here. Maybe the eyes stay closed or the gaze is lowered to the tip of your nose. Last breath here, like this. And then if you'd like, you can join me in Anjali Mudra, bringing the hands together at the heart and bowing the chin into the chest. Taking a moment to honor your effort and your practice with reverence and gratitude. Namaste, yogis. Thanks so much for sticking with me today. Hope you enjoyed your practice. If you have any questions, let me know. If you do want to stick around for one more minute, I'm going to demonstrate this hammock strap one more time because I think it's a tool that we all need in our lives. I don't know if I'd say need, but it's a nice to have. All right, so if you do have this strap, you have these two little D-rings. And this is, again, kind of like that belt. I don't know if you had one of those belts in the 80s. I did. So tail end of the strap goes through both D-rings over the top of the one that's on the outside of my body, and then through or underneath the one that's on the inside of my body. And then remember, you can adjust the width of this loop. So I have a pretty, this is, I think, an 8-foot strap, which is a nice length for long legs. And then I just always make sure it's pulled taut. This strap isn't going to slip around, and I can always adjust the width of that by pulling this strap a little bit more if I want more sensation. And then again, remembering that when you're using this like a hammock, it's at the bulbous part of the skull right above the ears. So it's not at my neck, okay? It's not under my ears. It's like right about middle of the skull. And that is the strap hammock. If you have any questions about that, let me know. You have my email address, tessa@tessatovar.com, and have a great day, everyone.